What was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do.
Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley was asked a rather simple question, a question that I would venture to say a fifth grader could even answer. But she did have some difficulty getting to the heart of what the Civil War in the United States was really about. So she's off to a shaky start. Let's see if she can recover.
What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? I'm sorry?
I'm not being president. I want to see your view on the cause of the Civil War.
I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government. We need to have capitalism. We need to have economic freedom. We need to make sure that we do all things so that individuals have the liberties so that they can have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do or be anything they want to be without government getting in the way.
Thank you. And in the year 2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery?
You answered my question.
Next question.
Oof. Oof.
Yeah.
That was so bad that even conservative media outlets were criticizing her for it. She really wanted to avoid having to mention slavery. Now, this is during a town hall event in New Hampshire. It was in Berlin, New Hampshire, which is a right-leaning part of the state. And it was difficult to hear what the man asking the question was saying in the second video we showed you. So I just want to give you the transcript real quick. And then, Cenk, I want your thoughts. The man responded, in the year 2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery. Haley quickly replied with a question, what do you want me to say about slavery? The man said, you've answered my question, thank you. And Haley replied, next question. Now she has since responded to the backlash following the release of that video, which I believe was first posted by the Biden HQ Twitter account. That's gonna be relevant information in just a bit. But before we get to it, Cenk, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm super curious to see if it was a plant, by the Biden team or the DeSantis team. Hold. Okay, but first on the answer. She's like, well, why don't you come with an easy question, like sarcastically. Yeah, no, that's like literally the world's easiest question. Was the Civil War about slavery? Yes, definitively about 100%. And then her answer is so nonsensical. Well, the government shouldn't take your freedom away to do whatever you want, including owning other people. Well, okay, how about their freedom to not be owned? Like, how about their freedom at all about anything? But to her, she comes at it from a Republican perspective, which is you're impinging upon my freedom if I'm not allowed to do anything I want to other human beings. So, I mean, it's a very telling answer, but really mainly it's about the pandering, but we'll get to that too.
Yes, definitely. She's definitely a pander bear here. But no, I actually think that the way she worded that answer was meant to allow an individual hearing it to interpret it in any way they want. So you interpret it as her fighting for the freedom of the slave owners, whereas she could use feasible deniability and say, no, I was referring to the freedom of the slaves, right?
Yeah, but not in the way that she said it.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't work. It totally fell flat. And this was her way of avoiding any offense to those who don't like telling the truth or acknowledging the reality of what the Civil War was really about. It was about ending slavery in the country. I remember long time ago, this must have been like 2009, maybe 2010, RT invited me on one of their programs and the topic of the Civil War came up. And obviously I talked about slavery, and I remember the insane backlash I got in the comments. And back then, I didn't know what gaslighting was. And so many of the comments were like, no, it was about property rights, how dare you, it had nothing to do with slavery. And I'm like, am I wrong? And I remember panicking, I'm like, what if I'm totally wrong about this? Of course I wasn't wrong, and of course I was right. Of course, at the heart of the Civil War was the fact that the Confederates wanted to fight in order to maintain the ability of slave owners to own slaves.
Yeah, guys.
It's crazy. Like,
so I've been in the South many times, and I've seen tons of the bumper stickers and crap merch that they sell about how it was a war of northern aggression and how the Yankees don't understand what they were really fighting for. Yeah,
right.
Go ahead. Tell me what you're really fighting for. Property rights. What do you mean property? You mean human beings as property?
Exactly.
Okay, great, no problem. Then I'm gonna own your ass. Okay, let's go. I want you and your family and anyone else related to you to serve me as my dogs for the rest of your life. And if you want, I'll sell off your kids and make profit out of it. What? I got rights. I got property rights. Heal. Okay. Oh, you don't like it when it's done to you, but you don't mind doing it to other people. Your freedom is the freedom to oppress other human beings. Here's what the Civil War was about. Slavery, 100%. If you don't think that's true, you're very likely racist, because it's such a weird thing to deny. The only reason you deny it when the whole war was obviously about slavery, like states' rights. States' rights to what, peach cobbler? No, states' rights to own property, human beings as property. So if you're denying that, you're denying it for a reason. No one who isn't racist like randomly wants to defend the Confederacy in the Civil War. You're defending it because you think, I mean, come on, man. Shouldn't I have that right? Get real. No one believes you. We all know why you're thinking that. So why is Nikki Haley doing this? She's theoretically a woman of color. We're gonna get back to that too, because she's sick the way she uses this as an advantage, using identity politics, ironically, on the Republican side, okay? But the reason Nikki Haley cares about this is because she thinks her voters are racist. And she thinks her voters think the Civil War was 50-50, can't quite tell who was right or wrong. That's why she says outrageous things like that.
And it's not the first time she said outrageous things in regard to the Civil War. We're gonna go to an old video dating back to 2010 in just a moment. But first, a little more context about the event and the gentleman who asked the question. So apparently reporters from the Washington Post reached out to him and asked some questions. The voter declined to share his name when asked by the Washington Post. He later told reporters that he had asked the question because he saw her answer such a question when she was running for governor of South Carolina, and he was curious if she would provide the same response in New Hampshire. And you know what? He wasn't lying about that. In fact, in 2010, there was an interview that she did with two groups that were sympathetic to the Confederates. And in the context of that interview, she addressed the Civil War. And I think it's important for you to take a look at what she had to say and how she had to answer questions about the Civil War. Let's watch.
What's your belief about the reason the Civil War was fought?
I mean, again, I think that as we look in government, as we watch government, you have different sides. And I think that you see passions on different sides. And I don't think anyone does anything out of hate. I think what they do is they do things out of tradition and out of beliefs of what they believe is right. I think you had one side of the Civil War that was fighting for tradition, and I think you had another side of the Civil War that was fighting for change. You know, at the end of the day, what I think we need to remember is that, you know, everyone is supposed to have their rights. Everyone's supposed to be free. Everyone's supposed to have the same freedoms as anyone else. So, you know, I think it was tradition versus change is the way I see it.
Tradition versus change on what?
On individual rights and liberty of people.
So this was while she was campaigning in 2010 to become the governor of South Carolina. She was speaking to leaders of Confederate heritage groups, and she called it a fight, as you heard, between tradition and change. And the interview, by the way, was available. It's still up on the now defunct Palmetto Patriots Group's YouTube page. So that's where it was found. And look, if you want to run for public office, if you want to be the governor of a state, you're the leader of that state. Leaders lead. And what I have a big problem with in our current political system is that it incentivizes people who have no interest in being leaders. It incentivizes people who want to pander to the worst elements of society in order to get into office, and then continue to pander to these very people. Leaders lead. In my opinion, the way Nikki Haley handled the interview she did in 2010 and the way that she handled the question that was asked of her during that town hall in New Hampshire shows lack of leadership. It shows cowardice. And I'm so turned off by that.
Yeah, so a couple of things here, including something that, to be fair to Nikki Haley about. So first, which is between tradition and change. Okay, but what's the tradition? The tradition was slavery. So if your tradition is to own human beings, to whip them, to kill them, let's be honest, to rape them, and to sell off their children as furniture, your tradition sucks. It's the worst tradition in the world.
It's a stain in this country's history.
Yeah, and if that hurts your feelings, I don't care at all. You have to own up to what is right and what is wrong. You don't have to needlessly own a terrible tradition for no reason. You could easily dismiss it and you're done with it today. The minute you say, of course I was abhorrent, of course the Civil War is about slavery, and of course, thank God the North won. I'm from the South and I love peach cobbler, but thank God the North won, so we became the United States of America and we stopped treating people in the most immoral way imaginable. How easy is that? That's the easiest thing in the world. And a lot of Republican politicians struggle to say the easiest thing in the world. Okay, now, to be fair to Nikki Haley, she did help to bring down the Confederate flag in South Carolina. That was, of course, because of the shooting at a black church in Charleston, where Dylann Roof killed 9 parishioners and wanted to start a race war. But we're the fairest show in America. So she had an important role in that, and so at least she did that right at a critical time, okay? Now, one last thing though about the identity politics, and I'll do speculation on who did it. So at the time when she was running, again, to Anna's point, they had asked her, these racist groups that are like, well, protect the Confederacy in our vicious racist ways, etc. So they asked her about, hey, are you gonna take the Confederate flag down? And at the time she said, I don't have any intentions of bringing it back up or making it an issue. Quote, I'm the perfect person to deal with the boycott because as a minority female, I'm going to talk to them and I'm going to go and let them know that every state has different conditions and every state has certain things that they hold as part of their heritage. So that's her weaponizing her identity and saying, don't worry, I'll get those black people off of your, you don't have to worry about them anymore, and I'll stop their boycott because I am a minority female and I will use it callously against other minorities to help Republicans. So that's who Nikki Haley is.
Now, we'll get to the man asking the question in just a moment, but I want to note that after the backlash, she attempted to defend her remarks and also, claim that she knows it's about slavery. Everyone knows it's about slavery. She first went on a radio show known as The Pulse of New Hampshire and said, of course the Civil War was about slavery. We know that. That's the easy part of it. What I was saying was, what does it mean to us today? What it means to us today is about freedom.
First of all, that's the most generic crap I've ever heard, okay? And what does it really mean today? It means clouds and sunshine, okay? And secondly, why is that the hard part? If it's about freedom, obviously it's about slavery. So she's like, well, the easy part is slavery. That's why I didn't mention it, really? Because it looked like you were really struggling. And you said at the beginning that it was a very hard question, right? And then you tell us, but the hard part is what it means today. No, that's also incredibly easy. I mean, obviously it means freedom. Where's the hard part?
So she's attempting to walk back her statements to some extent, and she's done it multiple times ever since the town hall took place last night. Now, with that said, I want to move on to her allegations regarding the Biden campaign, and I actually think that her suspicion here is warranted. I actually had the same suspicion before she put it out there, but I also want to note, even if it was a Biden plant, even if Biden's not the one who caused you to faceplant the way you did and fail in answering a question a literal 5th grader could answer more accurately than she did. So let's be clear about that.
100%.
But with that said, she also said on that radio show, The Pulse of New Hampshire, he was definitely a Democratic plant. That's why I said, what does it mean to you? And if you notice, he didn't answer anything. We see these guys when they come in, we know what they're doing. And so she has made it clear that she believes that the Biden campaign sent a plant to ask that question. And I think that there might be some merit behind it. I don't have any evidence, I wanna be clear about it. The only thing that made me suspicious this morning was that the first account that I saw posting this was the Biden campaign on X.
There's more than that.
I know, but let me just finish my point. The other thing is, look, there is polling that indicates that if Nikki Haley were to be the Republican nominee, she would easily beat Biden by like 17 points. I mean, the polling is absolutely disastrous for Biden in a 1-to-1 matchup with Nikki Haley. Now, at the same time, Nikki Haley has been surging in New Hampshire. Trump still has a lead on Nikki Haley, but if Nikki Haley somehow manages to win the state of New Hampshire, that could give her momentum. And a nightmare scenario for Biden, who's deeply unpopular, would be an election where he's up against Nikki Haley. That's why he's hoping for Trump over Haley. Now Trump, he's also, unfortunately, he's got a slight lead over Biden at the moment, and we should be, I don't know. Democrats keep saying that our democracy is on the line, we should be super concerned, but Biden insists on running for re-election, even though he's an incredibly vulnerable candidate. So I don't know how the election is gonna turn out. It's not looking good for Biden either way, whether it's gonna be Trump or Haley. But I do think that this is something that the Biden campaign would wanna do. They would want to put a Democratic plant at that meeting, at that town hall, to make Nikki Haley look bad. So.
Yeah. So there's some chances that it's DeSantis because he challenged her on it immediately. He had a ready answer. He's not a guy with a ready answer oftentimes, but there was a moment there that his team could have prepared. So it's not, and remember what DeSantis is trying to do is he's trying to peel away her donors because they're all in a donor game. Like that's never talked about in the press, but it's a giant part of their calculations and why they do what they do. So what does this have to do with the donors? Because now a lot of formerly Democratic or currently Democratic donors are giving money to Nikki Haley so she could beat Donald Trump. And DeSantis wants those donors. So this could have been a way for DeSantis to say, look, she's not so moderate, right?
Right.
And so there's some percentage chance of that. In terms of Biden, if it's Biden, which Anna's right, there's good evidence given how quickly they had the video, posted it and made a comment about it. And is it a plant? There's excellent evidence for that. And we're all, of course, since we don't have direct evidence of the guy saying, yes, I am a plant, yes, I'm a Democrat or a DeSantis supporter, you have to look at the circumstantial evidence. And in that case, he refused to give his party affiliation afterwards to a reporter or his name. Those are telltale signs, to be honest. Usually if somebody's a real person, they're like, oh yeah, Bob Smith from over there, and they're very proud, right? Not every time, but most of the times.
Yep.
He did bring his sons with him, which is a little bit, that's not usually what a plant does, etc. But
this is a smart plant.
Yeah, and he wanted, and you could tell from the way that he was asking the question, he wanted her on tape saying it, right? And so very likely a plant, probably Biden, but some outside chance that it's DeSantis. Now, I've dealt with plants before when I ran for Congress. And my Democratic opponent sent 4 of them over to a town hall I was doing. By the end, 2 of them said they were gonna vote for me, and the 3rd one was on the fence. And we have it on tape, okay? So plants are no big deal. You just give them what you got, right? Plants are only a problem if they're like massively disturbing the event, that could be an issue, right? Or you just don't have any answers. They come and they ask you questions, and you're like, God, golly gee, was slavery good or bad? I don't know, that's a plant. It's such a hard question, I can't tell, right? So the problem isn't the plant, the problem is Nikki Haley.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, she's the one who face planted, and this is not her first rodeo. She's been in politics for a while now, and so she should expect plants, and she should be ready. But she immediately kowtowed and pandered to, again, the worst elements of society, because you made a great point, Cenk. It is her assumption that Republican voters are deeply racist and want to provide cover for the Confederates in the Civil War. That is what she thinks about Republican voters. Interesting.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.
If it makes you feel any better, I have already put evac on alert. He's ready to go if it comes to that. General, I can assure you.
Hey, Chaplain, let me into the war room to see you, so I had to hack my way onto this frequency.
This better be critical, Wheelie.
Sir, come on, when is it not, please? Okay, couple of things. I'm running low on the dough. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And, oh yeah, I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I was so dang weird, caught on the other stuff.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
This was just a diversion. Security, please bring up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds! Give me an update on that reserve. Boss readiness. What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We are facing a heavy sustained attack. They appear to be after the Allspark. General! General! We need to evac immediately, General. Evac everything. Hold on. National security advisory. Stand down. Check it out. The troops have failed their mission operations. The amateurs for suicide mission.